Tánaiste, the rising costs of insurance for all sectors is a major concern. While it is understood that the cost of premiums is related to the level of risk, there seems to be a sweeping view taken when calculating that risk. Practicalities determine that there is seldom, if ever, an individual assessment of risk carried out, which results in some businesses being penalised for the failing of others. The Alliance for Insurance Reform recently made a presentation to the Department of Finance, which outlined that as many as 35 sectors are either struggling to get insurance or cannot obtain insurance at all. Those who have managed to get insurance cover have done so at a high cost and are left with a very limited number of insurers who will engage with them. Those who fail to even get a quote for insurance are left with no alternative but to cease their operations and abandon their plans. The denial of access to insurance cover is an immediate threat. We are in danger of losing thousands of small businesses and voluntary organisations. We are talking about adventure centres for children, caravan and camping parks, bike hire shops, equestrian sports, home care providers, festivals and events. To give an example, a popular long-established attraction, Aquasplash in Drummondere, reopened its business in May when restrictions were eased. In exhaustive efforts to renew their insurance, they contacted numerous insurers in both Ireland and the UK, and not one of them will insure this business, not one of them. Unfortunately, they are not alone with this dilemma. It appears that anything to do with water sports or child play centres has become a taboo for insurance companies. This prevailing attitude is impacting on a wide range of activities and services. Minister Sean Fleming has established an Office for Insurance Competition to encourage greater competition in the Irish insurance sector. It is up and running since last December. There appears to be little progress. We have no reports of insurers contacted or new deals done. There are no announcements of new underwriters setting up in Ireland to take advantage of reforms that have happened and are due to happen. There is no sign of the expected new entrants to our insurance market. Where are the specialists in underwriting areas such as child-oriented enterprises, hospitality and tourism, leisure, and the creative and sports sectors? The number of sectors that currently cannot get cover gives an indication of the scale and urgency of the supply issue. The market will take time to respond to reforms. In the interim, government must intervene with a real sense of urgency on behalf of the sectors that I have identified.
I just want to thank Deputy Lowry for raising the issue of insurance costs and insurance costs for business in particular again here in the Chamber, and I share his concerns about it as Minister responsible for employment and enterprise, and I want to assure the House that insurance reform is a priority for the Government. We established a Cabinet Committee subgroup on insurance reform, which I chair, met yesterday, and we're overseeing the implementation of the action plan for insurance. And that's all about bringing down costs for consumers and businesses, introducing more competition into the market, preventing fraud, and reducing the burden and cost on business and community and voluntary organisations. We'll publish our 6-monthly update report in the next week. Significant progress has been made since we started implementing the action plan. For example, the introduction of the new personal injury guidelines, and the latest data from the Personal Injury Assessment Board indicates that payouts, that claims that have gone through the PIAB, the amount paid out is down 50% since those guidelines were introduced, and we would expect to see that reflected in the courts, and we'd also would expect to see that reflected in lower premiums, not 50% lower, but certainly lower as a consequence of those guidelines now beginning to take effect. We've also established an Office to promote competition in the insurance market, chaired by Minister of State Fleming, talking to insurance companies, underwriters, asking them to look again at Ireland and be willing to enter our insurance market. And you'll be aware that one large underwriter, Berkshire Hathaway, has expressed an interest now in coming into Ireland, or back into Ireland, in relation to professional indemnity insurance, which is an important issue. Also, the Criminal Justice Perjury and Related Offences Bill has now been enacted, and that will help us to crack down on insurance fraud and exaggerated claims, and that will be commenced in the next few weeks by the Minister. Minister Troy is developing proposals to reform the Personal Injuries Assessment Board so that more claims are settled there, thus significantly reducing legal costs. and also, which may be particularly relevant to what the Deputy mentioned, the Department of Justice has recently completed their review of the Occupiers Liability Act, including the issue of the duty of care and notices and waivers. And that's there to increase protections for consumers, businesses, sporting clubs and community groups. And the Minister is working on proposals, formal proposals that can now be brought to government for legislative change to perhaps rebalance a bit the expectations on businesses versus those who use those businesses as to who gets injured and why.
Tánaiste, one other issue that has been brought to my attention is that of ghost broking. It appears that this is gaining prevalence and should be highlighted in this House. The Gardaí have in the past issued warnings to Irish motorists about ghost broking, which is an insurance scam that many people have fallen victim to. This scam sees motorists being charged for fake insurance policies which give them the impression that they are fully covered when in reality no cover has been provided. The vast majority of the fraudulent companies offering such policies are to be found online. They typically state that they represent legitimate insurers. The policies they sell are obtained from insurance companies using false information and subsequently changed before being sold on to customers. The obvious impact of this is that the purchaser does not hold a valid certificate of insurance and has no cover in place. This leaves them liable for any damage caused or offence committed as a result of having no motor insurance. Tánaiste, I feel we should have a buyer beware campaign. It is required to educate the public and to stamp out such activity.
Thanks very much, Deputy. I've heard of this this practice of ghost brokering. It is, of course, illegal, but often hard to enforce the law against an internet entity that may not even be based in the state. And I'll certainly take up the Deputy's suggestion of an information campaign to warn consumers about this scam, so that they might be able to avoid being ripped off in this way. So I'll certainly speak to the CPC, the Consumer Protection Commission, about that, or perhaps the Central Bank, whichever relevant body could run such a campaign, and I'll certainly pursue that suggestion.